We are tracking a developing story here on CBS Sports HQ. The Mets and first-round draft pick Kumar Rocker are not expected to reach an agreement prior to Sunday's signing deadline. Reports have surfaced that following a physical, the Mets are concerned with the elbow health of the righty Vanderbilt product. The franchise cannot strike a deal in the final hour. The 10th overall pick will likely return to Vanderbilt, while the Mets will be awarded the 11th overall pick in next year's draft as compensation. Joining us now to offer further context to the situation, CBS MLB insider Jim Bowden. JB, multiple layers to this situation. We need you to help us unpack it all. Kumar Rocker taken 10th overall and notably assigned a large percentage of the Mets signing bonus pool. It appears that the sides have reached an impasse. Now, what happens next?
Well, let's start with this. Kumar Rocker was definitely a top 5 or 6 player in this draft, and he fell to number 10. One of the reasons he fell is that he refused to take an MRI prior to the draft. He was one of the players selected for it. He had the option not to do it, and he chose not to do it. And then the Mets did the physical, and they found a problem with the elbow, although other doctors have looked at him, and they have a different opinion. That being said, we know what the talent is. He's a top 5 or 6 player in the draft. Now, if the Mets don't sign him, they'll get the 11th pick next year, and unlikely they'll be able to draft a player of this talent at number 11. So the Mets have to make a decision of how much to discount the injury in the signing bonus offer. Now, when you look at this from a long-term perspective, in this day and age with payrolls that are in the $150 to $200 million range, you know, the signing bonus really isn't that big of a deal in the big scope of things. There's no reason to think, even if he does have surgery on the elbow, let's go worst case scenario, he needs Tommy John. Okay, you miss a year of baseball, but you come back and you've got a top of the rotation prospect. Now here's the problem. 2 of the best negotiators in the sport are going at each other right now. Scott Boras is advising Kumar Rocker. Sandy Alderson is the lead negotiator on the other side for the New York Mets. He's the one completely in charge. These are great negotiators and they grind it out. Before Mets fans completely give up on signing Rocker, I would urge everybody to wait until the 5 p.m. Eastern deadline. Why? Because I had experience of decades. I didn't say decade, I said decades in negotiating with Scott Boras. And when I had a first-round pick that was in a similar situation to this, Scott Boras doesn't move until the final hour. And he can move drastically. He did many times with me. It maybe took 8 minutes left, but he did move drastically. I also negotiated with Sandy Alderson for decades, and he would move at the end drastically. So I don't think this is completely over yet. I would still say there's a 10% chance that the Mets could end up signing Rocker, which I think would be the right play. But the other thing is you've got an ego involved here on both sides, and egos a lot of times stand in the way of getting deals done. You know, you've got Scott Boras that wants his guy paid. We understand that. You got Sandy Alderson who's like, hey, I drafted a guy that refused an MRI, and now I don't want to pay full price. Okay, I get that too. But at the end of the day, are the Mets better with Rocker or without? I would argue they're better with him. So this is extremely complicated. Easy for the Mets to say, well, we'll just take the 11th pick next year. Okay, but are you going to get a pitcher of this caliber with the 11th pick next year? The odds are very, very slim. So there's a baseball need here for the Mets. They can sign him if they want. There's a deal on the table. They agreed to $6 million, so there is a deal that could be made. We'll have to see how this thing plays out at the end. But I would urge everybody, wait until the end. I can't tell you how many times. And I got one final point, Joe, that's the most important point. Kumar Rocker is going to make this decision at the end of the day. When he sees the best offer that's on the table, this is not Scott Boras' decision. Scott will let the player make the call. So whatever that final offer is, Rocker can say yes or no with a few minutes left before the clock hits 5. And on the other side, same thing with the Mets. There's no reason to think why at the very end, when they take a deep breath and take their ego out of it, they can't move a little bit more to get this done. So let's hold on to the end. You got 2 of the best negotiators. Neither one of these guys are going to move until they get to those final minutes when we're all going to know if Rocker is either A, going to be a Met, or if he goes back to Vanderbilt or goes to an independent league and waits for next year's draft. We'll have to wait and see. In the meantime, Joe Musso, you know what it is? Tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock.
That's it. Our guy Jim Bowden has been in multiple different scenarios, multiple different situations, and dealt with these people directly, so he knows firsthand that it's not over until it is over. I would just lob one more question at you here, JB. I know it's not necessarily maybe college football level type deals, but we are talking about one of the bigger names in college baseball in this new NIL era. I'm not saying he could make up the whole $6 million in signing bonus, getting deals back at Vandy and figuring out ways to make some money with that machine behind him that is Scott Boras. But do you think that factors into the decision at all here?
Well, it has to factor in the decision. I mean, Rocker's got a chance to go to a big market team. Do I think he can go back into the draft and do as well or better than what's being offered now? Yeah, probably. But don't forget, he also has the risk or the possibility at some point that he's going to need a surgery. So there's going to be risk here on both sides, no doubt.
Well, we will continue to monitor the situation here on CBS Sports HQ as we grow closer to the deadline, and we will continue to break it down with our guy, Jim Bowden. Thank you, JB.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.